You should have already read the PowerPoint presentations and listened at this point, but I'm going to give you a few tips before you present and do your exercises for Module 1. So in here, you should have already learned how to do a balance sheet. The importance of a balance sheet is it gives you a snapshot of where you are today. Generally, people do them as of 12/31 of the previous year because you have all the information. It's something historical, so you have all the information there. So when you do a balance sheet, there's going to be two main formats people use. The one that you're going to have in there, if you choose to use it, is going to have all your assets on this side. Now, what are considered assets? Most people, if you have a house, if you own the house, if you're renting the house, it's not your asset. You're just renting. If you have a house, you put it over here. If you have a car, that would come in here. Any kind of cash, so any of your checking accounts, retirement accounts, so IRAs, any kind of 401ks, any kind of retirement accounts, anything that's yours. People will include jewelry, it may be any kind of stereo equipment, any furniture, anything that has any sort of value you want to include. And you're going to have all the dollar amounts that coincide with those amounts. On this side, you're going to have all your liabilities. Liabilities are anything that you owe. So most of the time they correspond with this side. So with the house, I have a mortgage. You do not include rent. Rent is just like you wouldn't include it as an asset, you wouldn't include it as a liability. It's the mortgage. It's not your monthly amount, it's your total mortgage that you owe. So if you have a $200,000 house and you put it over here, and then your mortgage, let's say, is $150,000. If your payment's $1,000 a month, you don't include the $1,000 a month, you include the total amount that you still owe outstanding. So car, you might have a car loan. So you're going to put your car loan over here, and let's say it's $10,000 that you have. The other things that are going to be on this liability, student loans. I know a lot of you probably have student loans taking these courses. So those are going to be up here. So you're going to have student loans, any kind of personal loans, credit card debt, any other kind of debt that you have, all goes in this top half. This is how you figure out this bottom here. This is your net worth. Your net worth is the difference. Your assets, all your total assets, you subtract your liabilities, and that gives you your net worth. So your net worth is any of the positive money. On the calculations that I gave you, it should automatically calculate it for you. But you need to know that that's how it's set up. Sometimes when you go into a bank that you have to fill it out, it'll be on separate pages, and it might have assets on the top, liabilities right underneath, and then the net number underneath of it. So the main things to remember is anything that has value you want to put on the asset side, and anything that you owe anyone goes on the liability. I know for a lot of you right now, if you're in school, have student debt, and don't have a house, don't have a lot of other things that you own free and clear, you're actually going to have a negative net worth. That's okay. That's normal. Most people in school are going to have negative net worth. You only want to worry about it once you get, your goal is to get out of negative worth. You want that number to be positive, but it's okay if it's not yet. The next thing you guys are going to be doing for me is an income statement. An income statement is basically just that. It's going to tell you your income minus your expenses. Generally, it's also done for the previous year. So generally, it's going to be done as of 12/31. So let's say we're doing it for this year, 12/31/2011. Okay, you're going to start with your income. It's your gross income. So that's going to be, let's say I make $50,000 a year. This is my top line. I'm going to subtract out any kind of income taxes. And those are going to go in the next line. So let's say, just for number's sake, it's 5,000. I'm going to have a net number here. This is my net income. Then there's going to be a section for you to put all of your expenses. And you put any expenses you have. So if you have a house, you're going to have a mortgage payment. If you don't have a house, you're probably going to have rent. So you're going to put either rent or mortgage or whatever that is. And it's going to have a place for you to put it with the amounts. These are all annual amounts. So if you have a monthly expense, make sure you take that times 12 because this should be for a year. So you're going to have rent and utilities, and let's say you have water, phone, your car payment, any expenses that you have that you're going to include in this. When you get to the bottom line here, this is going to total up all your expenses. Say it's $40,000. It's going to take this number minus this number. This gives you your net income. So the main thing on this to remember is it's last year's information. It's previous. It's not next year's. You don't do an income statement on projections. You do an income statement on actual figures. The other thing to remember is that these are all annualized. So if you have a monthly expense, make sure you take it times 12. The next thing you guys will be doing for me in your exercises is a budget. These are done on a monthly basis. So you'll see the budget that I have provided for you if you choose to use that. And it's going to have January, February, March, April, May, and continuing. Make sure you fill out every month. When you get to the side over here, it's going to total it for you. So it should be a total of 12 months over here. You can drag them across in Excel. So if it's the same every month, you can just take this bottom number and just drag it across so that it autofills for all 12 months. So we're in January, so let's go ahead and start with January and fill out the entire time. These are what you would like. So when you do a budget, this is what you're projecting out what you want it to be. So there's a place for you to put any kind of income up here. Unlike the income statement, a lot of people choose to use a net number here. So they take the taxes out. They're going to use what they actually get for their paycheck. You can do it either way. Just remember to make sure that you actually include it. So if you do projections for $50,000 like our last, make sure that you take out your income taxes in here. Otherwise, you should be starting with $45,000 for this number over here total. So this should be monthly, so it should be $45,000 divided by 12 for each month is your income. In here, it's going to have a lot of the same expenses as you just had in your other income statement. But the difference is you're dividing it out monthly, and the other difference is that you're trying to change it. So if, let's say you had negative net income, you need to change one of these. So these are what you're trying to achieve. So it's not what you did in the past, it's what you're trying to do for next year. So this is a great way for you to control your expenses, is to put it in the budget and stick to that budget. So you can add and subtract as many of those line items you want. The one I provided with you has a ton of line items in here. If they're relevant, use it. If not, you can delete the line item or just leave it as a 0. Okay? When you get to the bottom here, a good budget should not have a lot of money at the bottom. You shouldn't have $1,000 left over down here. You should put it into one of these other subcategories. So savings, retirement, for a vacation, for whatever else you're going to use it for, these should be down here in these categories. You should specify where you're going to put this money so you don't just have a big lump sum. You want it to go back up into one of these other categories. This is going to go into where the other fourth thing that you do for this week is your goals worksheet. Your goals worksheet should be these items right here that maybe you use this leftover money for. When you fill out a goals worksheet, just like in the examples on the PowerPoint, you want to make sure that you are very specific. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. In the worksheet that I give you to fill out, you're going to have 3 different sections. It's going to be short term, intermediate, and long term. Like we talked about in the PowerPoint, short term is anything less than a year. You're going to have 3 spots to fill in here. You should have at least 3 goals for each of these time frames. And so for short term, it could be, we're already less than a year. Some people are already thinking about Christmas next year. You realize how much you spent this year and you don't want to get in the hole again, so you've decided, you know what, I better budget for Christmas for next year. So I'm going to set aside, I know I need to have $1,000 for Christmas. So right now I'm going to set aside $100 a month to have $1,200 by next Christmas. Okay, so we want to make sure we're specific. When you get to some of your intermediate goals, it might be to pay off your car. Maybe you have a 5-year loan and you want to pay it off in 3. So how are you going to do that? Maybe you increase your car payment by $100 a month to pay it off in half the time. When we get to some of these long-term goals, a lot of you guys don't have houses yet, and one of your goals is to have a house. You don't want to say, I'd like to have a house in 5 years. You want to say, I need to have, if I want to buy a $100,000 house, I need to have $20,000 set aside so that I have a down payment for the house. So your long-term goal might be $20,000 down payment for my house. So again, you want to make sure that you have a time frame, an amount, and an achievable goal. So when you're filling this out, I'm looking for at least 3 goals in each area. Those are the main mistakes that people make when they're doing this. If you have any questions that we haven't addressed, please feel free to give me a call or to email me. All my information is on the website.